Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Paulus-Krause, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I am so excited today because we have Debbie Biddle on the show. And I have watched Debbie over the last couple of years as she's done a ton of work in the local community. And I'm just so excited to have her on the show today. So welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you today.
Yeah.
My business, as you may know, is called The People Company, and I've been in business on my own for about 2.5 years, almost 3. And I have been working in the diversity and inclusion space. I started my entrepreneurial journey actually probably 15 years ago, doing some small business consulting and then doing consulting in a school district, which is where I first started doing D&I work. But my background is actually in accounting and finance. I worked in corporate America, very large Fortune 200 companies, doing that work for about 15 or 20, between 15 and 20 years. I don't even remember now. It's been so long ago.
Right.
That's where I got my footing. But
yeah, so interesting. So how did you, after 15 years or that long at corporate America, what caused you to go out on your own?
Partly, to be honest, I wanted to have kids, and I was working 60 to 70 hours a week, and it just wasn't happening. And we decided that we were just going to make some lifestyle changes, and I did end up getting pregnant and having a baby, but I just wasn't the sort that was going to stay at home and compare recipes. Not that there's anything wrong with that, just wasn't me. So as soon as I, had baby in tow, I started working on other things. I've always been involved with the community and always been involved in a lot of things having to do with justice, and I've just been very justice and civil rights minded my whole life from a very young age. And so that kind of led me into the space where I always had 5 or 6 things to say whenever an issue came up. And when we moved from the Chicago area to Gurnee, Illinois, I got active in our school district there. And they were talking about the achievement gap one day at a parent-teacher conference. And so I went in to the meeting and I had a whole lot to say, and the superintendent contacted me afterwards and said, "Hey, do you want to work for me? Here's what I want you to do." And it was basically working with faculty, particularly administrators in that school district, around diversity and inclusion issues, because they had a huge achievement gap between kids of color, poor kids, people who spoke a second language, and they needed help. And so that's how I got my entree into this space.
Right? Isn't that funny how we just kind of get led into those opportunities where we can really feel that passion and everything else. So when you're helping out, whether it's probably the schools in this case, what are some of the things that some of the work that you do to help them with that gap?
The first thing I did was just go around to all of the schools and observe what was currently going on. And what I found was that teachers just were generally ill-equipped to deal with a rapid influx of change in the school district. And that's not at all different from what happens in corporations either.
Right.
But in their feeling inequipped, they were a little bit paralyzed, didn't know how to work with students, didn't know how to work with parents, and didn't know what was available to them in terms of resources that they could use to make the shift in what they were currently doing. And so I did a lot of research on my own and kind of exposed them to different things school districts were doing around the country. And I worked first with the administrators and tried to get them to think outside of the box in terms of how they educate kids, in terms of how they engage parents. And we were able to do some really cool things there. And in the middle of all of that work, then my husband got a job transfer and we ended up in Wisconsin. And
when I started working with him.
Right, that's when you know. And I didn't really know what was available to me here. So I came here and kind of dibbled and dabbled in a lot of different things. I'm also a musician and a singer. And so I did that to fill my time for a while. And then I started working for a career transition firm and started doing work with all sorts of people around leadership and career development, which was great. I never, ever thought I would be doing that. But a woman that I went to church with saw me in the bathroom at church and said, "Hey, I think you would be good at this. So come work at my company." And I thought she was nuts, because who does recruiting?
Who does that, right?
At church. But I got there and I loved it. But over time, I think just spurred on by what was happening in the community here in terms of the police and the interactions with police force and communities of color, and what was happening around the country about 4 or 5 years ago, it really made me want to do something. But I'm not the sort that's going to go with my picket sign and protest everywhere. So I thought, okay, I've got some skills. What can I do? And I decided that I could continue this work in diversity and inclusion, and also probably help some people with career transition and leadership too. And I started my company while still working in career transition. And quite honestly, hardly anyone called me for career transition work or leadership development. Everybody wanted to talk to me about diversity and inclusion. And that's how I launched.
Right. So why do you think that is? Why is that?
I think Madison is kind of ripe for a change. The view of Madison is not great when it comes to diversity and inclusion. It's ranked the very last state in the country for people of color to live. It's a challenge in terms of wealth, education, community. On pretty much every measurable spectrum, Wisconsin ranks last out of all 50 states. And you wouldn't think that would be the case, but it is. It's hard to recruit people to come to Madison, I think, or to Wisconsin, period. But I think that's because of the weather, as we can attest to today.
And there's 12 inches of snow out there.
But I don't know. I think there's an awareness because of the Race to Equity report, because people are seeing that there's a change in the community makeup, so that corporations are saying, hey, I want to be more responsive to the people that I have working here. I want to be the kind of company that really embraces people who are have different backgrounds, and not just because it's a nice thing to do, but because there are outcomes that show it's better for the company. You can be more profitable, you can be more productive, you can be more innovative if you have diverse people in your background and you manage them well. And that's the key piece, that it's managed well and that there's inclusion in the workforce.
That's where the leadership development side meets up with the D&I world, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. It's such important work, Debbie, such important work. And so when I was thinking of, okay, what do I want to title this show, Your Leadership Legacy? Again, why I asked you on the show is because the work that you're doing is leaving like this massive legacy. So what does leaving a leadership legacy mean to you?
That is the question that plagued me when I was reading them. I think for me, what it means is that you really embrace the God-given talents and gifts and abilities that you have, that you do work that's really important to you, that you do it well and do it in a way that engages people and changes people for the better, whatever that might be. And for me, in my work, it means if I can get somebody to move even just a little bit in their thinking about other people and how they engage with them so that it's a more productive relationship, then that's great. If I can get someone to do some inner work, some self-work, some self-assessment, to really think about who they are, how they were raised, what their life experiences have been, and how that affects the decisions they make, whether it be in the workforce or in the community or in their personal relationships, then I think that I will have done something good. If people can really analyze themselves, and not just for the sake of analyzing, but then say, okay, here's where I am today. I could be so much more productive. I could engage so many more people. I could have so many better relationships if I would just do this one thing. And a lot of times it doesn't mean, running down a list of characteristics or flaws that you have, but just being emotionally and intellectually aware enough about yourself to make a change that will make you be able to engage better with the people around you. And when you do that, I think you can be more productive and be better at any work that you're engaged in.
Right. You kind of end up becoming your best self, right? I mean, I think so often we live on autopilot. We kind of, I got to get through this day. I got to get through this week. I got to get through this month. And we're just checking off the checklist and not really living an intentional life. And so when we talk about living an intentional life and some of the stuff that you've mentioned, leadership doesn't mean that you have a title, right? It can mean that you don't have a title because we lead ourselves. So when you talk about self-leadership, what does self-leadership mean to you?
I think it just means doing the hard work, taking a real deep look at yourself, recognizing where there are weaknesses or where there are deficits in your own life character, and also recognizing the strengths and the gifts that you have and making the most of those. So doing the hard work to be the best at whatever giftedness you might have, and also taking a realistic look and saying, okay, I really need to shore up these areas of my life. So how am I going to do that? And it doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself. I think there's a lot of help out there. So get the help that you need to do it so that you can be your best self. And I think when you're your best self, then you can help others more effectively be their best.
Yeah, totally. I love that. What do you think holds people back from investing in themselves to do that?
For me, it's that I'm always thinking I have to do this stuff for other people, or I have this project to work on. I'm always trying to do something for somebody else. And I think I'm I'm gonna last forever. And the reality of it is, if I don't take care of myself, I'm not gonna get to do the work that I love. I'm not gonna get to spend time with my family. I'm not gonna be around because I won't have taken care of myself mentally, physically, spiritually, or in any other way. So it's important to do it. But I think all of us need the reminder that you can't run on empty. You can't serve other people out of an empty tank.
Yeah, so important. I want to talk about leadership and how leadership has evolved. Mm-hmm. So in the past, it's been kind of hierarchical, it's been title-based, it's and kind of moving forward, especially when we talk about diversity in the workplace, and we talk about just, all the different generations that are in the workplace today. What advice would you give to a leader who maybe has grown up in that old style leadership, and they probably maybe have a team today that is stuck, or that they can't get moving to get the results that they need? What advice would you give them? Like, how do you even start to go, how do I become a better leader? I don't understand the way that this leadership thing has evolved, and what do I need to do first?
I think leadership for some people has evolved. I think leaders who have done it well over the years are still doing it well. And I think some of the characteristics of doing leadership well are that you recognize that to lead is also to serve, that you have to take care of the relationships with the people that you lead. You cannot, there's nothing to lead if you have poor relationships with people. So getting to know them, no matter who they are, where they come from. So they could be 20 years old, they could be 80 years old, they can be Black or Hispanic or LGBTQ, they can be from any particular walk of life, but you have to invest the time to get to know them and get to, you have to be astute enough and insightful enough to figure out what it is, what context, what environment, what projects are the ones that they will work on, where they can do their best to work and bring their best self to work every day. And so that takes time. I think as leaders, we don't always want to spend the time because we think I've got to do this project or do this thing or meet this appointment. But getting to know the people that you work with and creating scenarios for them to really thrive is crucial. So that's one thing. Not being so caught up in yourself, not so narcissistic. That's another thing. Work really doesn't revolve around you. So being aware of that, being emotionally intelligent, and I know that's a big buzz phrase around workspaces these days, but the self-awareness piece that we've kind of been talking around for the last few minutes, I think is crucial to anyone who's going to be a successful leader. And then being aware of how to manage relationships in the process is really important. And being able to honor people, in ways that are meaningful to them, not in the ways that you think they ought to be celebrated or respected, I think is really important as well. And just, I think Zig Ziglar said something many years ago that I think is important in leadership. And he said that he gets great joy or satisfaction out of helping other people accomplish their dreams. And
Yeah.
it helps him be able to accomplish his. I'm paraphrasing. But I think that's important, being able to help other people be successful will help you be successful and help your organization be successful.
Right, such a good point. So, question for you. When we talk about leadership and how it's changed with, we are 24/7 connected today. We have constant information coming at us at every turn, in every format, in every forum. Life is changing faster and faster and faster than it ever has before, which is tough on leaders, right? It's really tough to keep up these days. So any advice on a leader that's maybe just feeling super overwhelmed and like they're on this rat race and they can't figure out how to get off of it?
We started with this under the whole self-care thing. You've got to shut it off at some point. Some of us are better than others. My husband's a lot better at it than I am. He says that I have my cell phone as an extension of my hand. But I think you have to just carve out time for yourself every day to be unplugged. And for some people, that's, the moment they walk in the door at home. For other people, it's an hour in the morning. For some others, it's 15 minutes during the day at work. But figuring out what that rhythm is for you and making sure that you include that in your self-care, because being connected all the time just isn't healthy for anyone.
Right. It leads to such burnout.
It leads to burnout, and I think you have an over-heightened perspective about how important you are too.
It's a really good way to put it. A really good way to put it. Yeah. So, I understand that you have a gift for people that are listening.
I do. I have a couple of resources on my website. One is it's strategies for overcoming unconscious bias. I know there's a lot of question around about whether or not unconscious bias training is a great thing or not. And I would say I agree that in and of itself, it's not. It's part of a process that individuals and organizations have to go through. So these 7 strategies are some things that you can use along the way. And then I have another resource. It's an article about being an inclusive leader, what kind of steps you can take to become one. And I think those tips in there are really good as well to help you rethink about how you engage with folks and how to treat people with dignity and respect in your organization. So if folks want to take advantage of those, they can do that on my website at www.ppl-co.com. So people, that's abbreviation for people company, but ppl-co.com.
Awesome. Yes. And that's the name of your company, right? The People Company.
Yes.
Where else can people find you?
You can find me by email at debbdle@ppl-co.com or at my phone number, 312-933-9554.
All right. Amazing. Amazing. So as we leave, the very last question, if you had one piece of advice in regards to leadership to give, what would that advice be?
Think about how you want to be treated in the world and value people in that same way with dignity and respect that's meaningful for them. Yeah,
that's amazing. Amazing. It's really that simple, isn't it?
Simple to say, but hard. I don't know how easy it is to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to thank you, Debbie. I think you are an amazing human, and you're doing such amazing work in the community and beyond. And it definitely does not go unnoticed. And I just really want to thank you for being on today and sharing your wisdom with us. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right. Sounds good. All right. That wraps us up, you guys. Your leadership legacy. We have another one coming tomorrow. So we'll see you then. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com. And until next time, make it an amazing day.